All right, guys, so I'm sitting here in my gym at my house, and it's funny, I talk politics and culture and all of that stuff for a living, but when I'm out and about, one of the things that people ask me most about, and when we do Q&As, I hear the same thing. People are asking me about either my new dietary habits or my fitness routine or wellness or some of that stuff. And I guess I've had what the kids call a little bit of a glow up over the last couple of years. My guy Joey's nodding right now. And in large part, some, I would say, of my dietary stuff, when it was not so great, was out of pure necessity, like not having money. When I was doing stand-up for years in New York, and you're basically broke as a comic, I had a friend who was in food service, and I was, for years, living off of industrial-sized cans of tuna and packs of soup. They would come in these giant, like, cellophane packs of soup that they would give to diners, and I would eat that stuff over and over again, literally for years, just because I was pretty much broke. There were times when I didn't have 50 cents to buy a cup of coffee in New York City at, like, a little guy on the corner, and eating a lot of pizza and a lot of Chinese takeout and all of that stuff like a normal person in their 20s would do. Over time, I eventually, as the show grew and I started getting, you're not going to believe this, there's a little hate online, and some people don't like you all the time, especially if you say some controversial things. I started getting a bunch of hate, and I guess I did not deal with the stress properly because I developed something called alopecia areata, which is an autoimmune disease. We had all my blood tested and everything else, checked for every freaking disease. We had no idea what was going on. I was losing huge chunks of hair, probably about 40% of my hair. It was really horrible. I went on an experimental medication. It was terrible. It really wasn't working. And then eventually, a couple of years ago, I was on tour with Jordan Peterson. I was still dealing with the alopecia, and I was using powders and sprays to cover up these empty spots on my hair. It was really terrible. And Jordan was talking about the carnivore diet, which of course is, basically just eating red meat all the time, depending on how hardcore you do it. Well, after being around him and watching him clear up his skin through that and clear up, he had dental issues that got better, and I could see his hair look thicker, his eyes, face looked brighter, and all of this stuff. I was like, well, I'm going to kind of try that too. And I've really incorporated it into my life in the last couple of years. I'm not strict carnivore, and it's not just about diet. I think we're going to talk about some of the other things that I've tried to do. I'm not giving anyone health advice. I'm not giving anyone wellness advice or fitness advice. I'm just telling you some of the things that work for me, and maybe they could work for you too, and that's what we're going to be doing today. All right, so although I am not hardcore carnivore, I do eat some other stuff besides red meat. I usually have organic eggs in the morning, regenerative farm, if you can find them. It ain't that easy all the time. You don't want, soy or other weird feed in the chicken eggs if you can find it. Again, you're always gonna pay a little bit more for this stuff, and you have to decide what your budget is and whether that works for you. But a couple organic eggs in the morning with grass-fed butter, that's pretty much it. If I have breakfast at all, sometimes I just skip breakfast. And then I have black coffee, or I'll have coffee with a little bit of grass-fed whole milk, and that's pretty much it. That gets me to lunch around 1 p.m. after we shoot the show. And I usually do an organic strip steak, which is super easy to make. It's not that expensive. You can't screw it up. It's got a beautiful blend of fat and meat. So you just, even if you don't know how to cook, I'm telling you, bake this thing at 450, organic outside skirt steak. That's a little more tender than the inside one. And little salt and pepper. That's it. 15 minutes. You are ready to eat. And it's not that expensive, and you're gonna get a whole bunch of protein and good fats. And then I do like some riced broccoli on the sides. That's pretty much it. Or maybe I'll do some chicken thighs. There's a little more fat in there than chicken breasts. Sometimes I'll do chicken breasts, and just some kind of vegetable on the side. You might need some more carbs. Again, I'm not giving anyone specific advice. I'm just telling you what works for me. And then at night, usually a nice big steak or a piece of salmon or a piece of chicken, and usually, again, just some veggies on the side. So yeah, there's not too many French fries around here. There's not too many baked potatoes. There's not too much rice or anything, although that all does sound very good right now. But there's very little of that kind of stuff. And more than anything else, I think the important thing has been cutting the sugar. Like, I was never a sugar addict, but I basically don't do dessert anymore. ice cream maybe once a month or a bowl of cereal, something like that. But literally, I mean it once a month. Also, as you guys know, I am a tequila guy. I used to like drinking wine, and I would find over time, even though I wasn't drinking to get wasted every night or anything like that, but I was having some wine, I would say pretty consistently. But then there's a higher sugar content in there. I was finding I didn't sleep as well. I was a little groggier in the morning, that sort of thing. A couple years ago, some friends brought over a couple beautiful bottles of tequila one night, and I jumped on the tequila bandwagon. But I find in general, first off, if you're going to drink, I know there's a movement to like not drink at all or whatever. And it's like, okay, again, do what's good for you. But if you're going to drink, make sure you're drinking some water in between. You have some tequila or you have whatever you like, have a glass of water in between. You will feel way better. Have a glass of water before bed. Throw some electrolytes in there. Like there's some ways to mitigate some of the stuff. I'm not sitting here telling you that alcohol is the greatest thing. There are some studies, obviously, that there's some benefits sometimes with red wine because of resveratrol to heart health. And there's a social lubricant aspect and all of that. But I try not to drink that much. I was fairly drunk at the Rubin Report holiday party, and I apologize to anyone who was there. But beyond that, a drink or two, a cocktail or two, something very simple. Don't add sugar into your drinks. It's basic stuff, guys. Don't add all those crazy syrup, simple syrup, all of that stuff. Just put a piece of ice in there and sip it and enjoy, and you're going to be okay. So on the fitness side of things, I think one thing that's really changed for me over the last couple of years is I'm finally playing basketball again. Basketball, I talk about basketball all the time on the show. I've got that ball from an NBA practice behind me on the set, and it's like my true love in some alternate universe. I'm an NBA player, not this universe, unfortunately. But I stopped playing for about 8 years because I had torn my left ACL, and you pretty much need an ACL to run, and I never got the surgery, and I just was like, you know what? I'm done. I was in my late 30s. I'm like, I'm done playing. That's it. Moved to Florida. I met this group of guys who are playing a couple times a week, 3 hours a pop. We play Wednesday nights, 6 to 9. We play Sunday mornings, 9 to noon. Now there's a Tuesday game that I'm starting to play in, and I'm playing with a great group of guys who are in their late 20s into their early 60s. And so I'm 48. Sometimes I get out there and you just get to a certain point in life where like you have it and you're bouncing and you can still do a lot of things you used to do. And sometimes you kind of can't. And the guys in their 20s are way better. And then there's times that the guys in the 60s feel younger. And so it's just a super cool, fun thing. And one thing that really kind of inspired me while playing is because I play with some guys that are older, they have kids now who are in their early 20s. And how cool is it that someone in their 60s or late 50s could be playing with their kids who are in their 20s? And my kids are only 2. So playing with them, I've realized, man, I really want to be able to play with my kids when they're in their 20s. Well, you tack on 20 years to me now, or 18 years, I'm going to be in my mid 60s. So I really have to stay in shape. So that is one of the things that inspired me to eat better, drink a little bit less, work out a little bit more. We are in my gym. Behind me is my infrared sauna. I try to get in there for 20 minutes every day. Doesn't happen every single day. These are just things that kind of work for me, but it gets rid of inflammation. Good deep sweat, like deep sweat. It's really, really good for you. They're not crazy expensive, couple grand. You can probably get one on Amazon at this point. I've got a cardio machine over there, some light weights. I don't do anything in the most technical kind of way. That's just the way I do it. I kind of feel what my body's doing on that given day, and that's what I work on. And I mostly listen to Joey, who's behind the camera right now, who tells me to do all sorts of things that I can't really do anymore. But I think if you just get the right blend of kind of eating right, eat right before you play. I'm doing a little bit of yogurt, full fat yogurt with a little bit of honey before I play basketball, instead of doing like, having a ton of carbs or having a big pasta meal or something like that. People think you have to carb load before you do all these things. I think there's some better, lighter ways to do things and still get energy. And then really the piece that tied it all together was, when you have kids, you realize, boy, I want to be around a little bit longer and maybe functional a little bit longer. So you start doing things right. I'm throwing these kids all around the living room over there. We've got pillow forts everywhere. And every now and again, something kind of hurts. And I'm like, damn, 48, I don't want that to be hurting right now. So we're doing peptides in this shoulder and PRP in this knee. The point is there are things you can do to keep extending your ability to be as good as you can be for as long as you can be. All right, so I hope we offered you guys a little insight into what I do every day on the wellness side and the fitness side and the dietary side, and got me out of the studio to not talk politics for a minute, which is also good too. Whatever you do, as much as you love it, escape that every now and again too, which is partly what I try to do when I'm in the gym and I'm watching old NBA games and not thinking about what Donald Trump or anybody else did on that given day. But all of this, figure out what works for you in your life. But I guarantee you, if you start taking your diet a little more seriously, if you try to figure out those ways that you can work out so that your body's a little more functional, even if you're young, like you can do it now and get ahead of the game. Trust me, I'm 48, man. My friends have gone 2 different ways. I have some that are in great shape and some that are basically 5.5 feet under, and you'd rather be in the former part. So I hope this offered a little insight to you guys, and I think it's time for a steak. We've been told our whole lives that wrinkle creams were the easiest way to look younger. Now, one doctor says that's nothing but old news. According to Dr. John Layke, the world-renowned Beverly Hills beauty expert, most wrinkle fixes on the market are nothing but glorified moisturizers. They hardly make a dent on your appearance, and some can even be harmful to your skin, he said. Recently, Dr. Layke has focused his attention away from mainstream cosmetic practices. Why? So he can pursue a revolutionary anti-aging breakthrough, one that some experts say could empty the wallets of the cosmetic industry. It's almost like Photoshop for your face. You may even be mad after seeing how easy it is to visibly erase your wrinkles from view, Layke told reporters. His personal clients have dubbed his new do-it-yourself technique the age rewinder method because it can take years or even decades off your appearance in under 2 minutes. In light of this amazing breakthrough, Dr. Layke has released a step-by-step video to the public, free and uninterrupted, where he outlines exactly how to use this simple solution from home. You can find out more about this yourself right now. Go to bhmd1.com/Rubin or click the link in the description box below. That's bhmd1.com/Rubin. Again, go watch the video at bhmd1.com/Rubin right now, or just click the link in the description box below.